overpaint on an acrylic painting to show those of you that are oil painters how you can take an existing acrylic painting sort of in a rough-in stage and use it as your underpainting and then overpaint with oil just to save time and help to work out details, composition, color, and all that stuff. And then you'll have to let it dry for a day or two before you can start the next layer. So that was what we did. But the problem is it stirred up the acrylic painters because they didn't get to see the painting start from beginning to end. They only saw the painting come in, be roughed in, and then with oil paint on top of it. So everybody wanted to know, hey, show us how to do that from scratch. So that's what we're doing. And that just to kind of get myself out of this pickle I'm in, we're going to do that and finish this painting. So here's the underpainting as it stands. This is a 20 by 24 on a stretch canvas, same size as the original here. And we left off last week blocking in these few little pine trees. Now we're going to block in the boulders, the rocks. We have a little more underpainting to do in this session. And then our next session, maybe one more after that. I'm not sure how it's going to finish, but then we'll start the details and the highlights to really bring this painting to life. But now we're going to start in blocking in our rocks. Now this is again one of those things that many of you struggle with. Mountains are one thing, rocks are another. We can use our number 6 bristle brush for most of this, and we're going to just use darker values for the most part, as you probably know. And let's go back over to the original right quick. Let me point out a couple things. Now, we're going to block in all the main rocks and boulders. So all along this little stream, down here. This is just a little cliff rock. I'm not sure if you want to call it a boulder or not. And then there's a few way back in the distance. But we'll put them in here similar to what you see around the edge of the waterfall and so forth. So you can see they're pretty dark. They get a little lighter as they go back in the distance. We got to stay in theme with our value system and our color scheme, obviously. So we come down here to our natural tints, which is the blue, burnt sienna, and a little white, and then a little bit of purple. Now this creates your gray. You could use umber if you want to in this case. But we want to get a nice rich tone for the first one. This is pretty dark, by the way. Now we're getting closer. This may not be dark enough. Let me just test this out up here. No, we're going to have to go darker. So let's just put the blue in there, the brown, and the purple. Okay, here we go. Now, here's how this works. Now, this is going to sound kind of crazy, but I don't have a choice but to show this to you. All you do is make blobs. Now, we make fun of this in class at the studio, but no one has ever failed blobbing. So just blob in rock based on kind of what you see in the reference material. Now, these are your bigger rocks in the background here, and you can see they're just kind of back along the shoreline. There's one bigger one right here. I'm having to look over here at this to kind of get it similar. I'm not trying to make a perfect match. It's not that necessary. But just a little more brown in it. We come forward here. Big blobs here. This is what I have to tell you, folks, as much as I've done this over the years, there's nothing more exciting to me than doing boulders and rocks like this. See, just blocking it in. You can't hardly probably see it even on the TV because it's dark. It gets dark. But this is where good skill and developing over time, learning how to see form and value. And you will. If you do this enough, I've got students I've had for many, many years. We were having some fun the other day in class, and everybody was kind of adding up how many years some of them have been with me. I've had some students I've had for 20, 25 years. And just because they want to keep learning with me, and I'm learning, and I'll pass it on, they learn, and everybody does fine. Now when you get down here to this front one, it'll be your darkest one, so you can almost just stay with the blue, the brown, and a little purple, and hold off on the white so much, because you put a little white in it. See, this doesn't even look like you're making anything, and you're not. You're just making a mess, so to speak. So we'll put these in here and let them be drying. Alright, so I think we're far enough along with that now that we can let that set for a minute. Okay. Let's put a couple more right over here. That's all it is. Just blob with dark paint, folks. Then It's the highlighting that makes it. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing next. All right, so that's done. Now let's go back over here. I'm going to have to spend a little more time on showing you where we're headed each time. Now, if you'll notice on this painting, last week we blocked in this little row of trees here. Mine are just a little darker on the painting. We can put a glaze over them and soften them. Then you have another layer that's a little darker, and another layer that's even darker yet. So you have three values, okay? That one, and that one. So let's take your charcoal. I want to sketch in the cabin just so I'll kind of know where it goes here. And I think I'm going to put it about right here. And that'll just kind of give me a little idea of where I want to be with it. So when I can get these other trees and things in here, I'll be on the right track. And by the way, you can sketch it any kind of building on if you want a little small cabin, a little country church, or whatever you want to. Of course, that's your choice. The artist's prerogative. But I just need something to give me an idea. So my next trees will go right here. They'll be just a little taller, and they'll come right in through here, and then we'll have another group here that are even taller yet and darker. So this creates this recession of depth. Now let's go back to your number 4 bristle brush. Down here in this area where the gray green is, take your hooker's green, a little bit of purple, a little bit of white, and once again, just kind of, it's a nice, rich gray green here. And my gut feeling that's too dark, but we're going to try this out here. Yeah, it's just a little bit too dark for what we need to do, so we're going to lighten that just a little. Because we want to make sure the next value is light enough, dark enough that it'll come forward, but it won't be too forward. Okay, so there we have that. All right, now all you do is you just put in this little, you can call it whatever you want to, the center part of the tree, and you just kind of swish out on each side. Again, remember suggestionism. I don't know if that's a real word or not, but it works for me. Remember the French Impressionists came along at the turn of the century and decided, hey, we don't have to put every brush stroke in place. We don't have to do that anymore. Let's just make it what it is. This is art, by the way. Let's just put a stroke and make someone see it as a suggestion. The human mind is smart enough to know that that's a pine tree without putting every little needle in place. And, that's, I think, the hardest thing to teach people is that you don't have to be so detailed. So you do want to have the right form, obviously. You want to have the right values. You want to follow the rules of painting, of course, when it comes to the technical elements of composition, design, perspective. The value system has to be so in place, and a lot of times we misinterpret some of that. But you get it if you just stay with it. I'll put another one right there, and then we'll do the next value. And then you have a very nice progression of depth based on your value system. So there's that group. So that's a couple of shades darker than these back here. And these ones here will be darker yet. So just stick with the same file. Some more green here. Now remember when you want to darken your green, we talked about this in our last session. Just add more purple to it. And pine trees can be multiple tints and colors. They can, you may want a different kind of pine tree. You may want a spruce tree or a ponderosa pine, but that's kind of up to you. Now, just kind of get this in there. Now, see how I'm doing this? Now, these can be just a tad more. I guess I kind of hate to say the word detail because I don't want you to go too far. But this is where you do kind of control yourself a little bit. Control your strokes. Make them have a little bit more form in terms of unique shapes using your negative space rule, which you hear me talk about constantly. Now, the whole base of all of these just be kind of solid, and you just come out of that base with these darker ones. And see, this would be sort of the underpainting stage. You even wouldn't necessarily take quite this far if you're doing the underpainting for an oil painting. And those of you that did that, this is what you do. You just kind of block in all this stuff quickly, get the rough idea of your location of things in terms of your composition, your design, your perspective on a building, a value, whatever. It saves a lot of work. So that's where the modern techniques of acrylics can really be useful. Is finally getting, I'll tell you folks, acrylics are finally coming into their own. They are really starting to make a scene in the art world. It's taken years, and we're still fighting that uphill battle. But I started working with acrylics many years ago when they're fairly new. And I'll tell you what, I've been fighting battles ever since. The reason I like acrylic is for just this reason. I like the quick dry effect. I've learned how to use that technique. But one of the reasons people hated acrylic, and I heard this for years, was, well, it dries too fast. Well, look, there's a technique for that. It's called dry brush blending, and it's called glazing. It's similar to the things the old masters used. Techniques of glazing thin layers of paint on top of another to create all of your little layers of color and form and value and translucency and all that stuff. And once you know how, let me tell you what, painting with acrylic is a joy. It's just unbelievable. And you won't want to go back sometime. I've been doing this for years, and now that we're using gesso for white paint instead of the white, see, that was another complaint we used to hear with acrylic is, well, it looks kind of plastic. Well, I agree with that. So I started experimenting with gesso as the white, and sure enough, it paid off. It worked beautifully. It makes your paintings look soft. You can make them look like an oil painting if you want to, and it just adds a lot of flavor to your work. So now you have your 3 values of pine trees here, and these are just a little bit more controlled, so to speak. Now, that's it. Value 1, value 2, value 3. So that gives you a little variety. And we may still put a little haze or mist or something in there a little bit later. Now, let's go over here to the left side. There's some on this side, but I think we're going to have to do a little work on our meadows first. So let's go ahead and back here and to your number 6 bristle brush. And I want to go ahead and start putting in a little bit of highlighting on the meadow. So take your number 6 bristle, take a little bit of yellow, a little bit of your hooker's green, maybe a little orange, to create more of a mustardy color. Okay, now we've got some of it back here. I want to make it a little brighter back here, but I want to get it on this side behind the cabin. So you just kind of tap it in there and kind of feather it a little bit and just come down to the edge of the water there, back in the background, back in there. Just kind of tapping it. Yeah, you can turn your brush kind of sideways and fuzz it a little bit, or push up like we did, last time. You just kind of push it to kind of create more of a texture effect. There's a little bit of a meadowy effect right there, and just put this in there. Looks pretty good. And come right out into the edge of the water there. Now let's make this real bright back there on this little strip here. Just put a little more yellow in with the mixture. So that's where the sunlight's going to be hitting that little spot right there, and as it turns the corner on the water. So this little highlight is really important to get the next step of getting these trees and things in here. So that's why I'm doing this now. Normally you don't do too much highlighting till later, but sometimes you have no choice. Probably a little right in here where you got this color, just to kind of get a little bit of sunlight in the little ground here. I love doing this kind of thing. This is just so exciting. Okay, okay. Now, with this going on, those are called hot spots. Those are the spots where, the sun's kind of coming through and hitting things. Really looks cool. Now let's come over to our original. You can see it's starting to come together. Now we got these pine trees on the left-hand side, and these are even a little more detailed even yet. So we go back to our number 4 bristle brush, or now you can use, and I mentioned this last week that we might use one of the chisel brushes, and I didn't do it, but it's really good on this kind of thing. So take the number 4 chisel edged brush, take your hookers, green and purple. That's all you want to use. Work it right in this pile here. And let's go over here now and get this really creamy. Not soupy, but just on this side of soup. Okay. Now, starting on the very left-hand side over here, take your brush on what's called the chisel and just make a little kind of a line like that. See I'm doing that? Now, take your brush and just kind of flip it. And these chisel edge brushes create a really nice effect. Like, nice little pine tree needles. And because they're a little closer, that darker value pulls them right into the middle ground. And then we have the middle foreground. So that would be the small, and then there's a real tall one right here. So this kind of helps to add to the depth of the painting when you get these taller ones in here. It's really important. So let's say right here. I kind of lean it in a little bit. Okay, see I've done that? Now, take your brush, starting in the center, and kind of flip it like this. See I'm flipping it? And it leaves those nice little textured effects like the pine needles, branches. Now, this is also where you got to think about, pretty decent composition, because this is, leave some nice pockets of negative space. Don't get carried away and not do that, because that'll get you in trouble too. Isn't that cool looking? It's pretty fast too. You can get these done there pretty quickly. And let's say by this rock right here, there's another one I'm going to put in there. So let's get one more. It's a little smaller. I may make that one bigger. Now, as a general rule, by the way, when I mention things like that, folks, nothing is a rule that's in concrete, because every one of us, myself included, we have our own little special ways of getting things done. And if the end result is good and it's effective and it's correct, then who cares about the rule? I mean, painting is like that. That's why we're artists. We have artistic license. We break rules. That's what I like being an artist. I don't have to fall in line with everything else everybody else does. Just a nice little flip of the brush. That. Now, I do want to make this one taller. I've just made up my mind. We can get this one up a little bit more. Well, this is what you call the middle foreground, folks, and that's why I want to bring it a little bit more forward. So by making that a little taller, I can achieve that little situation there. Just don't want to lose my negative space. That is bad news. Let me do that. Okay, now we're cooking. Okay, we'll let that sit for now. Making sure we're all lined up here and everything's looking good. Okay, now I want to take my white pencil. This is the little white charcoal pencil or pastel pencil. I'm going to relocate this cliff thing here. And it can be kind of any shape you want it to be. I want to get it underpainted. So that all of the rocks and boulders and everything's in place. Now I'm going to switch to the number 6 chisel edged brush. Now I'm going to go back to the umber, the ultramarine blue. Maybe a touch of white just to give it a little bit of a gray tint. You can work right in this gray area right there. And just block in the front, just pull down. These will be your more kind of angular vertical strokes. And go back in there, where you're going to have the little cracks and things. And just stroke it down, little choppy strokes. Now remember, we're still not in the highlighting phase of this painting. That'll be the very last program. Hopefully next week. If not, we'll have to do one more. I just can't ever tell. The painting like this is a little more complicated, a little bit more going on than normal, so it may take, 5 shows instead of 4 or 3. But that's the fun about what we're doing, folks. There's really no reason to be in a hurry. We want it done right. I want to make sure you understand it. I have time to explain it to you. And Okay, it's good to have it kind of brush strokey, so it looks a little more textured like rock. Now, on the top of it here, take that same color and notice I'm putting some water on the edge of that gray mixture. Take a little bit of white, add a smidgen of orange or red to it to warm it up. And what's what I'm going to do here? And just come across the top here. And you just kind of work that across there and just put your little cap on it. We'll just get this kind of established so we can see the form of it. And then the painting is, in a sense, except for the building, which you can actually paint what we did in this session too, is kind of underpainted and ready for details. Now see, I'm kind of working, see how it's kind of mottled? The reason is because I've got some of the mud still in my brush, and that's what you want. You don't want to clean out your brush. Stick with the orange, a little white, a little bit of gray. And this will give you the ability to get a nice tonal value. See, it looks like rock. And you don't want to be too white. So if you guys put white in this, which you obviously have to, just be sure you get enough mud in there that it kind of muds it up so it's kind of a dirty color. Alright, now let me show you a couple things you can do early on with this little bowl. Now see, the edges now, what you want to do is go back to your orange and your white, right on the edge of this pile of gray. Now I'm going to pull vertically across the edge of the front of the rock formation. Now watch this. This is kind of important to establish the front of this. See, so you know you got this coming out here, and then there's got to be a front because the sun's hitting. So you pull this away. You can come down a little bit too, but you pull this away, and that forms, see the little fronts where the caps are. See how nice that works out? So you can see the fronts of those sticking up there. You go reload. Get this one. You can kind of run a little tap down like this. And this one, in some places, is going to be the finished product, except for the final cap on there. Because you want to keep it kind of rough, like old stone and granite and whatever. Now, we'll put some more details in it, adjust the cracks and things like that. But you don't want to over-highlight this, because this is still in the shadowed side of the painting, and too much highlighting could be a problem. So this one's, in some ways, is almost finished in some parts. And this goes back to that old saying, you know, don't fiddle, play, and putter. I haven't talked to you guys about that in a while, but you know, that's the motto on the show, actually, is the 3 P's, don't fiddle, play, and putter. And you'll have a tendency when I do that, something like this, especially. Because number one, you think, well, one more stroke, it'll look better. But see how cool that looks now? You got those nice ridges there. It's kind of fun to look at it. So we'll let that set up. Now, while that's setting up, I want you to go back to the number 4 chisel edge brush. And we're going to go ahead before the program ends. I can't believe how quickly these programs go. I mean, it just amazes me. We just get started and boom, it's over. But that's okay. There's one more time. Always another time. So go back here. Just dirty up this white again, similar to what you just did. We're going to start highlighting some of our rock formations. So let's start, say, with the one right here by the waterfall. Okay, now I want you to watch what we did. And if you have to make a light sketch with your pencil to see it better, please feel free to do so. I normally don't do that because I like to ad lib as I go, and I understand, folks, that you're kind of new at this. And ad libbing right now may scare the daylights out of you. But I see the rocks here already based on just being able to highlight this. Now notice this, there's the cap on it, the top of it, the front of it, and then there's another one right here. We're just going to start blocking them in, and then we'll detail them later. All I'm trying to do right now is locate them by putting some soft, gentle highlights on top of them. See, this is where most of you struggle. Well, I don't know what a rock looks like. Hey, listen, I didn't either. That's where a little bit of practice and get you some files out, study your rock formations. You know, the best thing to do, you guys, is to get some scraps of canvas or little canvas boards and just make studies. I have a lot of my students when they come to the studio, especially my newer ones, uh, just do that. We just take some scraps and just practice. Okay, there's this one right here that's kind of out by the building. See, these are going to have a cap on them. Folks, we're about to run out of time, and because of that, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to turn you loose on your rocks. And between now and our next session, I'll work on mine a little bit more to kind of get them all located. And then you can work on yours and just try to practice getting that nice little soft highlight and a nice shadow. And you shouldn't have any too much trouble. Like this big guy down here, it's a long, swooping rascal. Got a long angle to it. I'm going to try to get him started before we have to shut it down here. But I like this little guy over here. Now see, and I'm going to dirty it up a little bit. Put a little burnt umber in with that. Yeah, there we go. And then on the front side of it, I'm going to switch to a little bigger brush. And it's a run out of time here. Don't want to panic. Then on the back side here, see, I put my little shadow in there. That's it. And we'll continue working on these, folks. But what I'm going to do now is turn you loose, because we're going to have to stop here in just a minute. And I want you to lay out your rock formations, find a way to kind of get them all in there. And then next week, we'll start the final highlights on things, kind of turn things around, turn this into a painting that I know you're going to love. Painting this kind of thing is a marvelous lesson for all of us that are trying to learn to be better landscape painters. So, hope you've enjoyed this program. It's been a lot of fun. I can't wait till next week, and you can really